Okay. I started a wasteland way underground. He started a race car craze. We planted a wasteland, rage underground. We planted a wasteland, space. All that there was a house, built it one by one. Nobody knew it would all disappear if they had changed their ways, gathered up their strength. Maybe we'd all be alive. Hey everyone, R.E. Wasteland, single of the week, S.O.T.W. This song was written, I wrote it with my friend Rachel Haden, and I was hoping together we could do an acoustic version of the song, but our schedules didn't really line up, so hopefully sometime in the future. So in this episode, I was thinking I wanted to show you guys how I produced Wasteland, some of my production techniques. In particular, I wanted to show you my drum production, drum sounds. I spend a lot of time thinking about drum sounds, in particular the kick and snare, and I'm obsessed with this idea of how can we replace the kick and snare. Like, what sounds can there's got to be a way to find alternatives to the traditional kick and snare sound, and it's really difficult because when you're from a young age on, when you're surrounded by pop music and Western pop music, the rock kit is such an integral part of a pop song that it's hard to find sounds that in that sort of frequency range and to be able to convey the same amount of energy and power is difficult. And you can go down the road of using pots and pans or whatever. I mean, I've gone down that road I've been down that road for many years, and I think it's not just a question of replacing the kick and snare, but also trying to completely break away from just the whole idea of the kick and snare, providing that kind of backbeat, What I have done in some of my production is sampled drum sounds and drum loops from other people's albums, and sort of cut it up, etc. I mean, obviously it's nothing new, but I kind of want to show you guys how I've done it, and you guys can let me know what you think. Okay, I've just opened up the Pro Tools session for Wasteland. I like drums. I like all types of drum sounds. I like small vintage drum machine sounds, and I like the big studio drums. In the case of Wasteland, I thought, because it's a sort of melancholic type ballad, I thought I wanted to contrast that with very like metal drums. So I actually sampled some drums off of a couple of metal albums. I can't remember. Anyway, let's see what. Here, let's just. Okay, so I've got 5 drum tracks in this song. Let's listen to this. I have a loop up here. I've got kick, snare, crash, and hats. So let's see this. The loop here, the top loop is. Okay, I cannot remember where I got this from, but that's kind of the main loop that's underneath the whole song. Then we have a kick. So I definitely took that kick from a metal album of some sort, and then I have a snare, and I think I took this snare here, I took that from probably the same album. So, and then here's the crash and hats, and there's a. So all together, the drums sound like this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want to actually see if I can figure out where I got these drums from. Let me see something real quick. I'm going to solo the kick track. See if I can. Oh, look at this. Okay, so. That's Deftones. By the way, I'm fully aware that there are young children watching at home thinking like, this is nothing new. Like there's Splice and there's all these plugins that you can use nowadays. But I feel, for myself, like me actually digging through some of my old records and finding drum sounds that mean something to me, and then being able to synthesize them into something that I've made is a big part of the message. In other words, the medium itself is very important to me. There are actually a couple of other songs I can think of where I've done this type of technique. And the reason why this technique is kind of useful to especially an independent musician is because unless you have a huge budget, even if you have a big recording budget, it's really difficult to emulate some of these huge drum sounds, especially these 80s drum sounds, where I've spent weeks in a studio trying to get big drum sounds. And what you'll notice about 80s drum sounds is that the kick drum is usually equally as bright and big, like the same amount of reverb and brightness as the snare, and which is quite different than most modern production now. So, for example, in a song, I have a song called "If You Want to Know." In that song, it's a yacht rock type idea, and I went right to the source and I took drums from this song produced by Phil Collins. So that's actually Phil Collins on drums. So, so I actually I could almost say that Phil Collins is playing on my album. Then I have in the song "Sex Traffic," I used a very iconic drum fill by Neil Peart. Even if you know everything about Rush, you would probably never recognize this drum fill or any of my other drum sampling, is because it's so taken out of context that it's unrecognizable. And I think that's sometimes the way that I can justify the fact that I'm stealing these drums from these master recordings. And I don't know. I'm actually not sure about the legality of all of this, and I'd prefer if we just keep that between. Let's keep that between you and me. And I'll tell you more secrets about the studio next Friday. All that they had was